Okay, we're going to get started. We called it for 5, and it is now 5:05. Our plan is to go about an hour and 45 minutes on cyber and get as far as we can. And then we are going to stop and take up other bills. We have about 6 bill lists or 5 bill lists, and then we will adjourn at 5 of 8. Just so I assume most people are here not because they're lost, but they want to be here for the cyber conversation. Just so we know who is in attendance, very briefly tell us your name and your organization or agency. We can start from the far side. Are you speaking with one voice or multiple voices? Okay. LCR. General Services, DGS?
Yeah. DGS, all of that.
Okay. I guess you bought the chairs. You can take a whole row. Let's go up here.
That was good.
We isolated 3 or 4 main issues, I think, by the end of last meeting, whenever that was. It's all running together. There's a question of who's in and who's out, and are they out of a small section or they went out of the whole thing? That's one issue that we have to address. I think the procurement is resolved because procurement essentially stays where it was by and large. And I see a head shaking of the sponsor. The question of centralization and accountability of meeting the plan and what role if they don't meet the plan, and the coordinated relationship with DO IT playing a more aggressive role if they don't meet the plan, and then the longer-term plans, the centralization. And there's also an issue I raised near the end of local accountability in a parallel situation of just as DO IT will have some responsibility to be determined over the agencies, the question is in 1202 or 05, I confuse them, 02, if the locals don't meet the minimum standards, what should the relationship be in that case? So they're the issues that I have pulled together. I'm sure there are others. Are there any people think are of a major category that we need to address very explicitly up front, committee? Okay, let's start with, please. I mean, look, this is not a science. We've labored over this, and there are a lot of moving parts. We understand that. So I'm open to all kind of input.
So when you reference centralization, you mentioned standards and assessments and so forth. Is there anything in this bill that is going to have DO IT be the in-charge centralized agency opposed to just assessments?
If we can go to...
And that can be answered later, but I just...
No. It's a very fair question, Senator. Let's go to that page. It's near the end of 1346. Turn to page, we're using the same markup from last week, which was the packet. The bottom number is 66 packet number, the top is bill page 40. The very bottom, section 4. And Senator Hester and Ms. Foxworth obviously jump in if there are other places that shows its head. So if you look at the bottom of 66, section 4 is the transition strategy. So if people want to take a minute to look at that. Bottom of 66, top of 67. 1 second, Senator Hester, let people review it.
On the
Yes,
top? Okay.
exactly right.
Okay.
Voting list 42, we're on the bottom of 66 to top of 67 to respond to Senator Samier's question of the transition plan and what the transition plan will embody. Senator Hester.
Sorry, my light was on for another issue. So, what exactly was his question, though, Senator Simon?
Know how this dealt with centralization, how soon, how heavily it was going to be concentrated or centralized. And I think section 4 is probably the most explicit section of the bill that deals with that question, unless there are others.
I think so, I could try to answer that.
Senator, you would like more explanation?
Yeah, just looking at it briefly, it looks like they're putting a plan together. Is that basically the summary? Okay.
So the House, when the House made some changes, they said move towards a centralization strategy earlier in this bill, in the codified portion of the text. You know, I thought we needed a little bit more explanation what a centralization strategy could look like, given that we're not moving people and we're not moving systems. And so I had a conversation with a few folks in the industry, and the points, 1 through 5, were components they thought made sense to consider in a centralization strategy. But I would also point out that this is the Office of Security Management working with the Maryland Cybersecurity Coordinating Council, which is the heads of all the agencies. So it's just the agency getting itself in shape to centralize, cybersecurity.
Understand the scope. Would this be every agency would be part of the centralization, or I don't see the scope? I see the task, but does this bring in Department of Transportation, the educational system?
That's a separate question. I think,
I mean, isn't that key to centralization?
Well,
to know what your scope is?
I think we resolve the scope in another portion of the bill, and
Okay.
whoever's inside the scope would then work on this transition planning together.
Okay, I'll listen as we go.
one second. There are two key questions that are related. I broke them up rightly or wrongly. So,
See carve-outs with state agencies. So it's just broadly every state agency unit in terms of comporting with the policy that's set forth through Do It. They have to comply with it. And no one is explicitly carved out from that.
and this gets to a question, and I hate to bounce around here. There's a section, and it's page, where's that list? 20 of the bill, yeah. Page 20 of the bill, or 44 and 45 of the packet, that removes some units of some sections of the bill. I don't think it takes them out of the whole bill. I think some people think it takes them out of the whole bill. So, and one of the questions I have is the people who want out, are they fine being out in the section on page 20 or 45 of the packet? Or do they want out of the whole bill? What is their interest? I don't say we're going to accommodate it, but that's one of the issues.
Questions I had Friday, because on page 20, that seems purchasing, leasing, or renting of equipment. And that's a very limited, not centralized networking. And I just don't see where that other part is saying all these individual agencies that want to maintain their independence. Where, is it just the, Alexis just said that it's, they didn't carve anybody out, but.
And she is exactly right from my reading. This section, section 4, as of now, nobody is carved out.
Right.
She's right. That's in my reading. I'm not the attorney, she is. But I read this as, at this point, at 5:15, in this proposed bill, it encompasses everyone. And again, this centralization is response training, improvement dashboards. It's not like what one would consider a heavy hammer. You know, this could be done, it could actually take over. This doesn't take over. This is a much softer version of what was introduced many months ago. So this is the centralization plan, although centralization should be defined as 1 through 5. And as of now, it includes everybody. Senator.
So just to follow up on that point, my understanding of the request of the USM exemption was that the concern was about duplication because their standards that they have are actually higher than what's in the proposed legislation. And my understanding was that was the rationale for the request for exemption. So that's why when on page 45 of the packet and 20 of the bill, that's why I was trying to understand, just to clarify, I guess, the question that was asked earlier.
And Senator, I want us to avoid going back and forth here. So I would prefer that we take up section 4 as a broad policy, and then we'll take up separately if we want to narrow that scope, and we'll get to these people. I'm going to ask them if they just care about the purchasing and the leasing, or they don't even want to have common response training and operation logs transition and these other things. So,
Thank you.
so right now before us, I'm putting section 4 with the language as proposed by Senator Hester. Any objection to section 4? Absolutely. Look, we only will understand it if people ask questions, but I don't want to tarry at the same time. I want to be efficient. So we'll take the questions, and then we're going to vote sections up or down and move on.
Okay, so if I understand section 4, it's not a infrastructure centralization, it's a more of training, dashboards, and things like that. It's not the technical equipment.
Correct.
Okay.
So, any objection to adopting section 4? Turn the damn mic off.
Actually, there's just a minor technical correction.
Okay.
So in section 4 on line 5, page 67 of the reprint, exactly where we were, instead of it saying whether the office needs additional staff, it should say something like the agency needs additional staff. Because if you're doing a transition plan, there might be a small agency that needs another person. So I'm on page 67 of the reprint, section 4, part 5, third word in, where the office needs additional staff. I think that's just a,
That's my question is, if we're giving the authority to the Office of Security Management, not to the agency,
You
it's
can-
about carrying out these duties?
it could be silent on who gets the staff, just whether additional staff are necessary. Or you can leave it like it is. I just wanted to,
As a point of clarification, does this additional staff have to do with just the review process or additional staff that you're anticipating in other agencies? Because the simple reading is, this has to do with the development of the plan. Right, that's my point.
Forget I said anything.
That being said, Section 4 is adopted. Yes, you don't have, just ask.
Yeah,
You don't have to ask,
Well, that
can
was
you
my,
ask?
that was
Just
my
ask.
ask. On number 3, you talk about operational logs transitioning to the Maryland Security Operations Center. Is that just for archiving, or is that for the office to review the operational logs? And is it a real time? They're the ones monitoring for hacks and things like that?
Need to have them all going there. My understanding, and we can ask Stewart, is that many of them are going there, but not all of them. But this is a plan to talk about the operations logs transitioning to the Maryland Security Operations Center.
Okay, so
And-
that would be a real-time transition, and they would be monitoring at the operations center.
Well, eventually they would, but I can see something like, for example, like, I don't believe MDOT's logs are currently going there. You might want to start with all the small agencies first and have those, but this is a plan to talk about those operation logs transitioning.
But my point is, who's monitoring?
Do it.
So they're the ones that are responsible for, if they find something in the logs, they report it.
I believe so, but it's probably automated.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we've adopted Section 4. Let's go to Section 5. And then I'm going to come back to that question that's been asked about, we know some of the agencies want out of the purchasing. And the next question I'm going to ask those same agencies, are they asking to be let out of this broader responsibility? And you can ask, but we can say thank you, but no thank you, and we'll have that discussion. But let's take up Section 5. So committee, if you would, take a minute to look over Section 5. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. It's, on one hand, it says shall assume responsibility. Now, it's softened by saying a shared service agreement. But if you don't get it right in the plan, they will step in. Just so we understand, Council Foxworth, is that your reading of this? Okay. Senator Riley.
Thank you. A question for our good expert across the hall here. So the first report's due in June of '23, and then action will be taken on July 1 of '24. I presume this gives the agencies a chance to bring their operation up to the cybersecurity standard established. Okay, it's a long year, and I was just kind of, do we want to shorten that, or is a year appropriate?
That's a technical question. I think it depends on the nature of what's found in the certification. Some problems can be fixed more quickly. If it has to do with a legacy system upgrade, a year's not going to be enough time.
Okay, so, Section 5, it's a policy question, it's up to us. Anybody object to adopting Section 5? Okay,
As far as the department taking over, some of these are big agencies, and the staffing's coming up, in my mind. So we're gonna take over these 5 different agencies because they haven't done it. One, what happens to the staffing in the original agencies? And then what happens, do they have enough at the, whatever the other, Office of Security Management? So,
Well, it's only on cybersecurity issues, first of all. It's not taking over the agency.
right,
And it only is limited to administrative privileges, access to the network, and control of the specific system. So it's, one, I don't read it as permanent. It's if they have weaknesses and holes in their plan, that they can interject themselves to get them up to the level that DeWitt thinks. Senator?
Inviting DeWitt up at some point, but this is certification to DeWitt's minimum standards, right? It's not, if they have a vulnerability assessment and there's tons of things wrong, but they're still meeting the minimum standards, they'd keep going.
DeWitt, come on up. Very simple.
Sorry, Chip, if you use that microphone, then Patrick can have his own, and that
Yeah,
might be easier.
we're only going to have
Thank
one
you.
person answer the question. This section, and you'll tell us who you are again, this is something you would like to be able to do and you have the capacity to do it? They're the two fundamental questions I think I'm hearing.
So Chip Stewart, State Chief Information Security Officer with the Department of IT. This is something that I believe we should do. It's a reasonable standard to hold folks to a minimum standard to ensure that the security of their systems is appropriate. Regarding the capacity to take over, I think that that's something that would be dependent on the system, and I think there's 3 different options in the event that a system is found to be non-compliant. It's an or statement. Through a shared service agreement is one option. Administrative privilege or access to the network are the options for how to remediate, and I think that that gives enough flexibility that DeWitt would have capacity to support.
Discussion on Section 6. I'm sorry, Section 5. I'm already, if not, I'm assuming that's assent in terms of support. Let me ask one other question related to 6 and 7, to 5 and 6. Someone suggested to me another method would be withholding cyber security funds from those agencies that are not complying. Is that something you would like in your arsenal?
I don't think so.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
before you guys answer, I can tell you, just in case that's an awkward thing for you guys, I can tell you that's something that the 911 Commission mused about, but that specifically means that they'll never solve the problem, because cybersecurity funding is part of how they fix their cybersecurity shortfalls or shortcomings. And so you're taking away the one thing that enables them to fix it. So I would have concerns about that idea. Punishing them in some other manner or having accountability in some other manner makes sense, but that's actually the one place that I think is not wise.
Okay,
Am I?
okay, so 5 is also adopted. You can stay there for a moment. 6 is really financing and interim report. I'll be surprised if there's any objection to that. But committee, I do want to say, and it's a separate bill, it's 1202, that language under 5, I will be recommending similar language in 1202 for the local entities, counties, school boards, and whoever else falls under that purview. Right now, it is silent. So we'll get to you in a moment. I just want to tell people I'm not moving that yet because we're dealing with 1346. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any objection to 6?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chair. The preliminary report, the interim report, is December 1st of next year, 23, which I think makes sense with the new administration, new leaders and all that. Just curious about the final report being October. Is there a reason why we can't give them a couple more months to really have this more in process?
You want to make that December 1?
I would think December 1 would make more sense, and then it's a year and a year.
Okay, B2 at the bottom of page 67, if there's no objection, will be December 1, 2024.
Thank you.
And section 7 is about approving the funds. We have dispensed with 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I want to return to that other question. We have a list on page 20, or also called page 44, 45. The sections we just talked about. Which of the agencies, well, I don't want to say get a jail card, want to be totally exempt from all that we find in 1346? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, and tell us again who you are, that you want a full exemption.
Want them in the mic?
Okay, those who want fully out, come forward for the firing squad. It's a policy,
Their name, their,
yep, rank, serial number.
and why. Yeah, 2 at a time.
Just tell us your agency and why you want out.
Martin Novin with the State Retirement Agency. We're an independent agency. We don't report to the governor. We're governed by a board of trustees that have elected member representatives representing those members, in addition to some appointed members. We learned of the bill last week, and we very much appreciate the sponsor giving us time that she didn't have to try to work with us this week while she was extremely busy. We also do appreciate all the assurances that we were provided. But as fiduciaries, we must act in the exclusive benefit of our members, our beneficiaries. And until we can see a final bill, review the bill and make sure it will not impact our ability to invest $70 billion for those beneficiaries, protect their private information, we simply can't ask for anything but to please be exempt from the bill.
Your primary is you're a non-state agency, or you're a quasi-independent state
Yes.
agency?
Yes, we are.
No, but I meant that is,
Well,
and you
we
feel
are-
you're obligated to your members opposed to the state?
Well, the state law says that we're obligated to our members. We cannot act for anyone's benefit or interest but our members.
And I'm going to presuppose the next question, and are you assuming that your cybersecurity of your system is greater than what is proposed and projected in this bill and under Dewitt's responsibility?
Well, as fiduciaries, we must only delegate our responsibility to someone else when we're confident that they can do a better job than we can, and we don't feel that way in this case right now with the state that we are in this discussion.
Okay, I had the vice chair, then I had Senator Riley, then Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What system are you on? So if you're independent, are you on a network that is completely unrelated to anything related to the state government?
No, we're part of the network, and we do have a good collaborative relationship with DeWitt right now.
Okay, so it was Martin? Marvin? Sorry,
Martin?
Martin. Okay, so Martin, you had me at independent, you had me at, like, protect the retiree, I get all that. But this is a cyber bill. So why do you think it's reasonable to get a pass if you're a part of the system and part of that universe, part of that infrastructure?
We're very comfortable with the cybersecurity we have in our system. And DeWitt has been very comfortable with the cybersecurity that we have in our system.
Okay, so tomorrow, Martin,
what our-
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
There's a new leader that comes in next week, and the new person says, we don't like the way it's being done, does a new thing, and suddenly DeWitt isn't comfortable with your system. Then you're out of, there's no accountability. I mean,
Well, we're accountable, we're legally accountable as fiduciaries to our 460,000 members.
I
and
get
their
that,
data.
but the 460,000 members are not focused on your cyber protection. They're focused on your interest rates and your yields and the riskiness of your investments.
So
Am I missing
we're
something?
governed by our board, a board of trustees that have people appointed by the governor. We've actually have the budget secretary on our board and the treasurer and the comptroller on our board. And we have elected member representatives. And that board is what makes sure that, that's the oversight. And they make sure that we're doing.
We understand that. I think you're missing the point.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is you're on the network, and going forward, I'm gonna
Ask everybody
reduce
that.
this to the least common denominator. If you're on the network, there are gonna be certain expectations
Totally.
that the same group you're partnering with now is going to expect. So that's, I think, where the vice chair was headed.
Okay.
So
And
could
that
I
is
just
fair.
ask one more?
Well, let him.
We don't mind meeting those best practices and minimum standards. That is not our objection to the bill.
So.
Our objection is centralized services, our objection is procurement, our objection
Yeah.
is not being able to be nimble enough to invest our $70
Yeah.
billion and having the resources that we need.
First of all, there's no centralizing. I think you've got to look at the bill and sit down with DeWitt or the sponsor. It is not taking over responsibility of your staff or purchasing or technology. There is a separate section on purchase and lease. The question I raise to people is, do they want to be out of the whole bill? And maybe, that's the only place we can start. So, okay.
Could I finish?
Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time.
No, but I think this
Mr.
is.
Chairman,
I-
I'm Ann Gothrop with State Retirement. Can I add one thing to this? I
Ann
think
Gothrop.
one of our concerns is,
Ann Gothrop,
yes,
from 153 years ago.
not quite that long.
Wow,
Oh, my goodness.
okay.
I color my hair. It shouldn't be that long
No,
ago.
no, no, please.
Anyway, the point is, my concern that I've been hammering into Martin here is that the section you all just voted on for Section 5, and the sponsor of the bill spent the time with us and said, this is only worst-case scenario where there would be some takeover. And I use that word, I know that it's not technically a takeover. Our concern partly is, as fiduciaries, no one can have discretionary authority over the management of our system unless they are fiduciaries of the plan. And to be a fiduciary of the plan, you have to be focused solely on the exclusive benefit of the system. So for DeWitt, if there's anything in this bill that requires discretionary authority of the management of the system, DeWitt would have to be fiduciaries of the plan. And if you're a fiduciary of the plan, sorry to say, you're on the hook
Okay.
if anything goes wrong.
Okay. To try to
So-
follow up and wrap up my question, Mr. Chair, and then, this feels a little bit like half pregnant here. You kind of want all the benefits and none of the obligations, and that seems unreasonable. So I'm wondering if you want to be out and have no one looking over your shoulder except your trustees and your oversight board and blah, 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 but not do it and not the legislature, blah, blah, is the answer that the retirement pension fund should get its own network so you're not endangering anyone else, and then you look after it yourself and no one else is looking over it. And I'm being
No,
earnest in that.
I think that's a reasonable resolution. I think the other thing that we could talk about is, I understand a lot of agencies were consulted about this, agencies that report to the governor who are not in the unique situation we are, and they've had more time to work with their lawyers, their IT providers, everyone, to ensure this would not impact their ability to serve their members. If we had that time, we might be able to feel more comfortable at this time. But as fiduciaries, we can't have
Sure.
someone say, trust us, it's being taken care of, even if we respect them and trust them.
So-
So if that's the choice, yes, we would take that.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's really a legal question of DeWitt being fiduciary, and they aren't. So being under any auspices of theirs raises legal questions. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You guys can step back. I'm sorry. Senator, hold tight. We're going to have some similar conversations with other people who went out, but Senator Washington?
Well,
I'm glad we got to that. And so are there any other bills that you are, just out of curiosity, are there other bills in other committees that affect you at all, during the legislative session?
Yeah, so
Just-
one
just-
example are divestment bills, for example.
Right.
Where people will have ideas about,
Right,
you know.
Right, so you've looked at all
And
that.
so we talked about that. In those cases,
Yeah.
every bill, the divestment bill that impacts us has a fiduciary savings clause that
right.
protects us and
Right,
says that
right.
we can.
So is it the case that you just hadn't really thought, and I think this is probably the issue with everyone, you hadn't really thought of the fact that you're sharing a network with other agencies, that it's the state's network that you're using. So you hadn't really contemplated that before, I guess. So in this discussion of cybersecurity of the whole network, you hadn't contemplated that it had anything to do with you because you hadn't really, you thought of yourself as being outside of, as an independent agency, and therefore didn't really think about the.
That's
you know,
correct. It
yeah.
wasn't until
So
right now
that's-
that I understood
Yeah.
where
yeah.
some of this is coming from this
that-
committee.
So I'm
and the
saying that
concern.
to you because I think everybody else is going to come in, and so if you think about sort of this in the context of the health, think of this as the public health
Mm-hmm.
of the system. Think about that we're all in this room breathing the air, and over the last 2 years, we've come to understand that if we're in the same room, that we as individuals have to take precautions to protect, the whole system. So it doesn't matter what I individually eat or that I just stayed home all the time, that I still, if I'm going to choose to come into a public space, I had to wear a mask. I had to get a vaccine. So this is just for everyone who's going to come up and say, I want to be out of the system. It's not that we want to run your home or tell you where to go. It's that when you're in this public space of our system, we have to know, again, to continue to use our COVID metaphors, at the very least, are you wearing a mask? Okay, and then for some, we'll have a heightened, we want you to have a shot, and we want you to have a booster. Oh, and by the way, we want you to be 6 feet from each other, depending on your risk. So again, I'm just sort of laying that out, that I think the committee's coming to a space where we understand that we have to protect the system as a whole, and that people
Okay.
cannot opt out of that safety. So thank you
Okay.
so much for allowing me to explain.
Senator Riley, and then I'm going to have the other people want out come up, each of them, and say who they are and why they want out. We hear the reason, the fiduciary question here. There may be a solution. We'll deal with it. Senator Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As they come up, just one per department, please. I mean, we have 5 from GDS. We don't need 5 opinions. 1 per unit, please.
Thank you both. The next who want out, the next who would like out of the broader bill will deal with the purchasing separately. So we're looking at the macro at this point.
You just want one of us, or both of us?
Well, you can both sit there, but only one is going to speak.
Go ahead.
Unless there's a unique data point that your colleague can tell us about.
Do you want to take that on? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Patrick Owen, University System of Maryland. I guess I'll start by saying we are not on the state network. I think there are a couple of touch points, but we have our own network that has the same security, but that we built ourselves as separate from the state network. And I guess the main argument, and we've shared some information with hopefully all of you at this point, is that our campuses operate very differently from a cyber standpoint than other state agencies. They operate like small cities with a number of different touch points on our campuses that need to be protected. We also have $1.5 billion worth of research that has its own unique cyber issues that we have to deal with. And so I think those are the key reasons. And I will say, I think in the committee's wisdom a couple years ago, we made some similar arguments, and thank you to our vice chair. When we were dealing with the protection of personally identifiable information, the vice chair was nice enough to sponsor a bill that I think allowed us to maintain our autonomy in this area on cyber and IT while still, being able to protect personally identifiable information. And so we're sort of making the same argument here, and it's all the same reasons why we're making that argument on these bills. And I do have our CIO, Michael Eismeyer, here, who can get into much more technical detail than I can.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair, and I did hear from UMES and from Salisbury University. I just wanted to better understand when you mentioned the $1.5 billion in research that you have to protect, or you're saying there's systems, you have a unique system in place that already protects that information? Or
Correct, yes, correct. And I don't know if you can share.
Well, there are standards and policies, and depending on the grantor of the research, which much of that is federal government research, there are policies and so forth that govern how that's protected and the, you know, the security with which that needs to be protected as well, which, so there are a specialized set of.
So it's separate and it's a higher level
technologies
of
and policies.
protection?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, we're not trying to skirt our responsibilities. We take this very seriously. We have very sophisticated, very strong cyber policies in place. We just don't think, because it's so different, we just don't think it makes sense for us to be under the oversight of DO-IT.
Let me, Senator, I mean, under the oversight of DO-IT is sort of part of what this bill does. And as I read this, they require compliance with state minimum cybersecurity standards established by the department. And I guess my first question to the expert, I know, Patrick, I know you know how to use a computer, but I think the expertise is probably beyond that. Do you meet what are considered the minimum cybersecurity standards, do you believe?
Yes, sir. For the record, Michael Eismeyer, CIO for the University System of Maryland, and we in statute are required to be functionally compatible with the state of Maryland cybersecurity standards. We are audited to those, to our IT security standards by Office of Legislative Audits. Each institution is audited on the same frequency as all state agencies by OLA, by our Office of Internal Audits, as well as third-party auditors.
And what part of the bill do you think would subsume you or put your current cybersecurity protections aside or be dismissed by DO-IT?
I think simply our ability to continue to meet the specific and nuanced needs of each of our institutions, and again, the fact that, you know, each of them are really, we're 12 small cities and always on, and the fact that we have successfully built our programs at each institution, which are all overseen by our Board of Regents, and that, you know, we have ultimately, you know, been successful in building programs that meet the needs of each of the institutions.
Didn't quite answer my question, but I will pass it on to Vice Chair, and then you guys figure it out.
Two things. First off, I have the highest respect for Senator Riley, but I disagree. I'm finding it very helpful to have more than one person from an agency because each of you has different expertise. But I wanted to quote from a piece of paper that was delivered to my office today, and I wanted to read a part of it or quote a part of it for the public because the folks in this room and folks watching at home wouldn't have access to this. And it's exactly about the oversight. So it's talking about how not only does USM have a chief information security and privacy officer, but that I think Senator Lamb will be pleased to know that, of course, that the Maryland Office of Legislative Audits also has oversight, as well as Chancellor Board of Regents, the USM Office of Internal Audits, blah, blah, blah. So, and the fact for me that you all are not on the state network is in addition to the work you're clearly doing. And Patrick, thank you for referencing my legislation. I think all of that for this one senator is persuasive. So, so thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well, I kind of wanted to circle back to what Chair Pinsky had asked, which was which part of the bill as amended you object to? I mean, is it the consistent incident response training, the improvement dashboards, you know, complying with the minimum standards, which you already said you do? I mean, you are exempt already in the procurement article, but I mean, I would like you to look at, you know, page 67 of the reprint and specifically tell me and tell all the students at your university whose personally identifiable information that you have, which of these you object to. And I'll just point out that, every year as the co-chair of the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, IT, and Biotechnology, we withhold funds not from the Cybersecurity Fund, but from your operation budget in general when there's repeat PII findings. So we have several instances when there are repeat PII findings, for this year. And so that means that if you were audited in 2021, that means that 4 years ago in 2017, you're audited and you found a PII finding, and those have come back. You haven't solved them in the past 5 years. And so specifically, Bowie State University, Coppin State University, Salisbury University, Towson University, University of Baltimore, University of Maryland College Park, there's all repeat PII findings this year. So yes, you are not on the network, but you're telling me you meet minimum security standards, and I also can see that there is an issue. So I don't understand why you object, what you object to. So that's my first question. What exactly do you object to? And secondly, do you expect us to bail you out if there's on the next hack? Because we're doing this to protect our taxpayers' dollars and the personally identifiable information of our citizens. And I can see that PII is not being protected. And so now, it's going to cost $10 million, $20 million. Are you going to come to this state when you guys are hacked? That is my question.
So there were a lot of questions in that one question, but from a training standpoint, we are required, each of our institutions is required under our standards to perform and deliver cybersecurity training to all faculty and staff at each institution. And we are tightening up those standards right now, as a matter of fact. And so additional training as, prescribed by, other entities may be excessive, in terms of an effectiveness and efficiency standpoint. And whereas right now, again, we are gauging our training toward the nuances of each of our institutions and the specific compliance and technology aspects of each of our institutions. I can't respond to each of the PII findings that you referenced without having them in front of me, but we are taking a hard look at both a centralized approach to PII management and critical system management that house PII, as well as our data privacy law, which passed last year, which will go into effect in October 2024, significantly reduces the footprint of PII across systems at each of our institutions. And so as we are implementing that, we are significantly drilling in on where PII is and locking down those systems even further than they might otherwise already be. And the third part is, as far as coming to you to bail us out, there have been minor incidents at a few of our institutions over the past several years, and those were able to be handled internally, and I
Yeah, we're not going to resolve this, but.
I was going to say, you sound like a model student.
oh, how so?
Bad pun, sorry. It sounds like you're doing everything right. And so, if you're doing everything right, I don't understand what you want to be excluded from. And the training would fall under the transition plan. So during the transition plan, you would work with the state CISO and say, hey, we're already doing this training, so that part was checked off, we don't need to do it. So I think that the chair's right, we're not going to resolve it, but I would really encourage you to get into the details of page 66 and 67 and come back with a solid answer. And I'm delighted that you're moving forward on the PII. Great job.
Yeah, and this doesn't need an answer, but it calls for external audit every 2 years. We don't know if that's something you can live with or not. It calls for an inventory of your cyber preparations. So they're the kind of questions I think the senator wants to know, what can't you live with? Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, gentlemen, quick question. So you talk about the USM, University System of Maryland. I know there's the organization, University System of Maryland, and there are all the institutions. So when you refer to the USM systems, Are you also talking about each system at each of your institutions?
Yes, sir. We are a system of 12 institutions, each of whom have the delegated authority and responsibility to build their cybersecurity systems from the floor of our USM-wide IT security standards. So said differently, we have a set of IT security standards, and which is essentially a policy for the whole University System of Maryland. Each institution then takes that policy and only improves on that in terms of the strength with which they manage their system. Because again, we couldn't create a policy that addressed all the different nuances in terms of all the different programs and areas of research and types of, academic programs and so forth that each institution has. So each institution has the delegated authority, to build their programs to tighten that even further based on their specific needs.
Yes, so thank you. So the USM system, you work closely with each institution to inspect or audit each institution's independent system to make sure they're meeting that high standard that you have at the headquarters, for lack of a better term, of USM.
We do stay involved with each institution individually, and in many cases, we are collaborating across institutions to build centralized functions that where we can leverage economies of scale, do things, that are cybersecurity related that I won't go into detail on, but.
Okay, so I was reflecting back on a bill a couple of years ago where, I won't name the institution, but one of the largest institutions in the USM, saying that they wanted to be exempt from those standards to upgrade their systems because it will cost so much money to upgrade it. And so they were that far behind. So there's a little disconnect with what they were saying to me privately and what you're saying here, that they're at the standard, but they're saying that they couldn't get to that standard because it will cost so much and they need so much more time. So
I don't know the specifics of the institution or the bill, but my guess would be it's our flagship who is in the midst of a 2-year upgrade of their financial and HR systems, their core systems that manage the administrative aspects of their institution. And so by July 1 of 2023, they will be live with a modern finance and HR system.
Okay.
That has been their sort of ask of us as well at the system office, that we're in a harder position to become to nimbly react to as much as we might until we get to a modern system, but they're on the path.
And that's a good guess because that's the institution I was referring to, so thanks for that.
Okay, we're going to go to the next group, but just so I'm clear, before you leave, you talked about the high level of security, particularly because some of your institutions are doing a lot of research. That's very proprietary. So if there's research, sophisticated research being done at College Park, and let's say there's sophisticated research being done at UMBC, these high levels of security so people can't break into it and steal that research, are they being protected differently, or are they on the same system or software? Again, I'm not an expert.
So the answer is not a simple yes or no, but I can assure you that the most sensitive research is absolutely fenced off and not accessible by anyone. It's on a whole different network segment and so on and so forth.
In each of those institutions?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next group. Who else wants out from the whole bill? Public safety, tell us who you are and why you want out and why you are unique.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Beskid with Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. We do not want out of the entire bill. We have one area that we are concerned about, and I debated coming up, but because the question was, what is your area of concern, decided to come forward. In the copy of House Bill 1346 that passed the House, in number 6 on page 12 of 41, which is page 37 of the packet. Okay. There is language that basically says that if there is a cybersecurity issue, that the Office of Cybersecurity Management can come into our systems and do what they need to do. And we believe that that covers what needs to be covered. The concern that we have is that the new Section 5 that this group just discussed, Sections 5 and 6, a review by our Attorney General has indicated that that may put us in a position where some of our information that is protected by federal agreements could become something that is reviewed. And while I understand there is language in the bill that says if this is something that is protected, that it wouldn't have to be turned over, but this gets into a central repository and other things that we're not 100% sure would be protected. So we believe that on page 37 of the packet, the language that is in number 6, which I believe was discussed on Friday and has become a new, it's 12 of 41 in 1346, or it's page 37 in the packet. Okay. We believe that that language covers it, and so we just are concerned that Section 5 at the back of the bill is a little further reaching and could get into some of our agreements on the federal government side.
And Section 5?
I'm sorry, it is the uncodified language at the back of the bill.
Right.
Thank you. On page 67 of the packet.
So, I mean, if we put language that said explicitly, this did not give Stewart or anybody else authority to take privileged information, or
I would have
I'm
to
not a
take
bill
that back to
drafter.
I would have to take that back to our Attorney
But
General,
that's
but
your
I
only
think we
problem.
could
That's your
consider.
only problem.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I think that's fixable.
Okay.
But duly noted.
Thank you.
Glad you were here, thank you.
Sure.
So I just think we might want to check, because if there's a system with sensitive information, it's not that DeWitt would take over the data, but if there's like a foreign actor, like in that system, like have we just, if we adopt an amendment, then would that exclude DeWitt from being able to work on that very sensitive question? Do you understand my,
I think so. Could you come back up, please?
I think it might be a question for DeWitt.
I'm not going to try to restate it. Restate as narrowly as possible your concern of what data.
Okay. There is a central repository that maintains criminal history record information. Without knowing exactly what the assessment in Section 5 would entail, we do not know if it would open that information to DeWitt and whether or not that is part of the protected information that would be excluded in the language that's in there. Okay.
I understand her question about DeWitt having access to that data. I don't think that the answer is clear about what in practice, if the central repository gets hacked, I mean, do we just mobilize the FBI then? Like,
My understanding from our IT is that the federal information is not necessarily on the Maryland network, and I believe the cybersecurity bill is looking at the Maryland network being hacked. It's the assessment, if there was a hack or if there was an attempted hack, and as part of the assessment that's in the language in Section 5, DeWitt was able to come in and look at all of our records. The question becomes, are they accessing systems we may not be able to share with them?
I can't answer that question.
And I'm happy to look into it, we just haven't had a chance to bring that up.
Let's not go too much further down that rabbit hole. Thank you. Okay. So in terms of the broader bill, I see no other people coming forward. There are sections of the bill. Okay. Committee, back to us. Yes.
So, I mean, you're asking people that are in the audience which one want to be out. Now, I've heard other things like Board of Elections and others. Are we saying this is an exhaustive list because this is who showed up in the committee room?
Well, I've tried to break down the conversation to the narrow and the broad. And it's my understanding a number of groups have requested being out of section 3.3-301. That's on page 44 and 45 of the packet. We can't do their work for them. You know, that section, as I read it, is about purchasing, leasing, or rental equipment. I don't know if some of these other agencies want out of the whole bill or not. But, for example, the amendments on page 45 of adding 3.6, these came from the House, correct? Page 45 of the packet.
Oh, right, if it's those carve-outs under the rental, use and sale of property,
Right.
that's from the house.
So, look, we've been raising this question so people know what they're asking to be carved out of. We can't call up all the agencies. The administration is here, and I assume they're in touch with the 12 or 15 agencies, and we don't see them all running to the front saying, we went out of the whole bill. So I only know what you know, Senator, and we will go back to the purchasing section to address the more narrow cast exemption question. We haven't adopted that yet.
Here?
MDOT was here, yes, they are.
So they're fine with it? You don't have to come up, just.
Well, it's a relevant question.
That's an important.
So yeah.
Pilar Helm, for the record, from the Department of Transportation.
So the Department of Transportation's okay being under do it?
So, I mean, generally, we're okay with the bill. If the question was to that specific session, 3.5, you know, MDOT, it does have, we are on our own network.
Right.
So, you know, if we could be exempt, that would be great, because we're on our own network. I'm not an IT or cybersecurity specialist. I'm not going to pretend to be. So if there are specific questions, I can take them back to our team.
Yeah, just generically.
Sure.
Over the years, I've heard that your department has been opposed to doing that because you have your own finance, own HR and so forth.
For our own special.
Right. So I just wanted to get it on the record. You're okay with now being under do it as the way this bill has drafted it?
Yes, everything except for if we could be included on that list related to the purchasing and the leasing. I don't know what the exact language is, but.
Okay.
Thank you.
Look, folks, we got to make some decisions here. So we have pensions who say they have, there's no fiduciary responsibility with the state and do it. They would like out. USM, because of their uniqueness and their higher level of security. And there's some question about public safety's central repository, which I think is a much smaller and narrower issue. So the question before us.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
There's one thing you didn't say, which is that the retirement folks are on the network. The other two that you flagged are not on the network. I think that matters, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, let's.
So could I ask a question of our CISO, Mr. Stewart?
Sure.
Chip, if you wouldn't mind coming back up. Abracadabra, you've got a magic wand, all right? Our retirement pension system is currently on the network. They don't want to be included in this for all the reasons that they gave. How hard is it to set up some orphan children, orphan agencies network thing that does not imperil anyone else if they mess up?
So I think that would depend heavily on which state systems they use. So, for example, if they used the...
Can you just move the mic closer to you, please?
Sorry, the Financial Management Information System, FEMAS, that would present a bit of a challenge in separating them out. If they don't use any of those shared systems, It's far easier. So I think it would be very use case specific.
Ms. Gothrop, can you just give us a thumbs up, thumbs down? Do you use FEMAS?
I don't know,
Don't know. Okay.
but we can let you know first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Stewart.
Look, so let's make a decision. Let's start making some policy decisions here. How do we want to handle the pensions and retirement system? That's question number one. In the whole bill, they've given an argument. Do we want an exemption or not?
Question?
Sure.
They could have this exemption, but still have some type of working relationship with Stewart, correct? Is that? Okay, so for the reasons that they stated, with the fiduciary reasons, but some of what we're talking about with Stewart, the coordination and suggestions and guidance from Stewart would still be available to you? Is- I just want to understand that, thank you.
Okay, so the question is, if they're exempt, that does not exclude them from a collaborative relationship and support from Do It. Is that, I think that was the question.
That would be our preference. That would be our preference.
Okay. And Do It, I mean, I don't want to,
an MOU with them, so I think a working relationship could still exist through this, yes, absolutely.
I think the other agencies are a direct report to the governor. This is a little different, that it's a quasi-independent agency that has its own board of directors. It's not the secretary appointed by the governor. Again, I'm not here to make a case for pensions and retirement, but the other 12 or 15, environment, natural resources, agriculture, are explicit creation of the state and part of the executive branch. So I'm not sure they could say the same thing, because there are 3 or 4, whatever, that are quasi-independent. PSC is another one, and State Board of Education is another. So I think there's a little different. And again, I'm not here to, that comment was to answer you, not to say I'm for this or against it. Senator.
My understanding was that their concern was about their fiduciary responsibility with Do It taking over. That basically what we heard? Okay, so the only takeover would happen if they, first of all, fail their certification, which is minimum standards, and I hope to goodness they don't fail that. And then they fail to spend a whole year remediating those findings in an MOU with Do It, which they already have. So I honestly don't see where this fiduciary responsibility kicks in. I think that they may be referring to the previous bill, which had systems and staff moving. But they're on the network, we all kind of sink or swim together, and they have a lot of high-risk data. I mean, they have not convinced me that they need to be out.
I wonder whether the bill's incremental implementation buys us time to figure out this process. So it's not like it's going into effect tomorrow, and so I wonder if there's some flexibility and some implementation options and that would be helpful for all parties.
The chair will entertain a motion if there is such a motion. As of, excuse me, as of now, they're in. So there has to be a motion to exempt them. Is there such a motion?
I'll make the motion to exempt.
Okay.
So I just wanted to read the portion of the law that state retirement is referencing. And it seems like a part of their argument as I talk, or as I kind of read through this, is that if this takeover happens, then Do It would have to be a fiduciary. And the language in that fiduciary section of code says that fiduciaries can only take steps necessary to benefit the participants of that system, which may create a question in operating the system. Are they only allowed to look out for the individuals that are under state retirement? Is that an exclusive kind of power that they have? Because as it's worded, it says they have to take exclusive steps looking solely for the interests of the retirees within the system. So that may pose additional questions for the authority that do it will have if they transition to have that system.
Take this up or down. We don't know what the other chamber's going to do, but we got to make some decisions here. Senator Carrozza, did I hear you want to make a motion? We'll just vote things up or down. We got a few more to do here.
I made a motion to exempt the state retirement pension system.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, further discussion? Yeah, it was over here. Let's do roll call. Okay.
I wonder if, Senator Carrozza, what you think about exempting them after a date certain. So it's not in this bill, but if it's, give them a year or something, Dewitt can work with them, and then if they want to go off on their own or something. But I think we ought to set some ground
guess
rules or guidelines.
based on what
Oh,
council
we're getting a thumbs up from Ann Gothrop. Okay. Okay, Martin? And we want an answer on FEMAS, and I think there are conversations to be had. And to be clear, Mr. Chair, is this the voting session on this bill, or is this the preliminary voting session on this bill?
No, we have a
Seriously,
week
I mean,
left.
I get it.
I want to make decisions because we have 4 big areas, buckets, and then we have the small stuff that we really have to put our imprimatur to.
Yeah.
And we have 1202 as well. So I'd really want to get us moving, and we have other bills to do. So I don't want to, and we got to send it back.
Right. Senator Hester, is there
So-
a date that makes any sense to you? 20,
She's not in favor.
oh, that is not what you're, okay, sorry.
That's not what she's against it. So.
24? Give them a year. When does this part go into effect?
You want them out for a year or in for a year?
In for a year, and then let Dewitt and the retirement folks figure something out, and then set the baby off onto its own. And I'm getting lots of nodding from Ann Gothrop.
I have no idea what that actually means.
That's why I'm looking for a date. Ms. Foxworth, is there a,
So, well,
I can't vote on something I don't know what it means.
I know, that's what I'm working on. Okay, okay, on page 69, it says the act takes effect October 1, 2022. Does it make sense to say that the retirement pension folks are out a year later? Or is it longer than that? Do it? Chip, Ann?
More than a year.
A year.
We'll figure it out.
So October 1, 2023, the retirement folks are exempted?
And in the event, in that time, if we are able to work something out with Dewitt, we can remove the exemption language. So just speaking on
The proffered amendment, it does say, wait, what was your date?
1 year later. 1 year later, October 1 of 2023.
So it's very close to section 5, which everybody has. On or before June 30th of 2023, each agency shall certify to the Office of Security Management. So you're in effect giving them
Another 6 months, 5 months.
4 months. I mean, I will be voting against it, but you're welcome to offer it.
okay. Senator Carrozza, do you see that as a friendly amendment or not?
So basically, they would be exempt until they would.
Till
Wait an extra year.
Till a date certain, till, what are you suggesting?
I suggested on.
As long as that meets the fiduciary issues that you brought up, that's my main concern.
Okay, so the motion before you is, they're exempt.
They have an extra year to figure things out with Dewitt.
They are exempt starting October 1, 2023?
Ms. Foxworth has a clarifying.
Bill, because the actual transition doesn't begin until June 30th of 2023.
That's
So-
what Senator Hester wasn't clear enough that,
That's a separate question.
It is a
I mean,
separate
we're
question.
putting everyone else in now to get started. We just want to work out the legal things, is what I'm hearing.
The certification for everyone, if we're talking about the certification,
right.
Right, so
They
that
should
doesn't
totally
begin
be
until-
certified. So I think Section 5, they should be included. And then they have a little bit, then they've got 4 or 5 more months to figure things out with Do It before they're, but I think they should be certified. I think all that's fine. Senator Crowe, are you good with that? Do you see that on page 67?
If,
5A1.
I mean, I'm deferring to the state retirement and pensions, as the concerns seem to be about the fiduciary responsibility. So if you think that helps you, then I would move the amendment as amended.
Can we have it restated?
so it would read for Section 5A1, would say, except as provided, we do another section on or before June 30th, 2023. Then in that section that we're adding, we would say on or before October 1st, 2023, State Retirement and Pensions Agency, the actual correct name of that entity, would have to certify to OSM and then transition.
Intent, I think the June 30th, 2023 certification date, I don't think they should have any different date than everyone else. I think that Do It should have all of that information on June 30th, 2023 from everyone.
So the October 1st, 2023 date is applying
Just
to
state it.
the
Say
certification
what you-
or to another portion of
No,
the?
certification is unchanged.
State
Senator
what-
Crowe, do you
no,
want to?
State what you like the amendment to say.
So then, as of October 1, 23, unless there's some other change, that they would then not be covered by any other portion of this bill.
Which would mainly be.
Which means either Do It is going to set up, but they're on another network, they're going to figure out. Senator Crozer, you want to, it's your motion. Do you want to speak it?
How much time? I was just going to do an exemption to give you time then to work with Do It. That's what I thought I was hearing.
A blanket exemption is fine, but I think.
Why don't you come up on the microphone?
I mean, my motion was an exemption to give them time to work with Do It. So,
I think what you're suggesting, Madam Vice Chair, is that there would be a delayed effective date for state retirement while we are able to work out with Do It to see if we can move forward with all the provisions of the bill.
so would it be a year do you want an extra year? Is that what you need? Or would you?
A year
Yes.
would work for
A year would
us.
be-
A year would be great.
Which is why I said October 1, 2023.
After October 1, 2023, the organization will not be covered by the legislation. That's what we're
Exactly.
saying. And
Yes.
hopefully before then, you
That's
come
right.
back and we keep you in.
January 2023, we hope to see you here again.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
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 So the
move
language
that
is, again, this is not the legal language, but after October 1, 2023, pension retirement will not be covered by the legislation. That's the amendment, for good or for bad. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So the retirement folks says that they're in the network now, in the system now, period, okay. The problem is with fiduciary with this bill, with Do It. But currently, Do It in the system is taking care of that fiduciary responsibility because you're in the system and everything's working fine. So if Do It, Department of Information Technology, implement these standards, they're still working within that fiduciary responsibility, so I don't see the problem. You know, they're taking care of the same people, same systems are taking care of the fiduciary responsibilities now because they are in the system. So why would we do this great bill to improve cybersecurity and then take them out? And so for that reasoning, I'll be opposing the amendment.
Senator Kagan?
On the
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Senator Lamb, no. Senator Hester? No. Senator Hester, no. Senator Ellis?
No.
Senator Ellis, no. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? No. Senator Washington, no. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson? No. Senator Patterson, no. Senator Simoneer? Yes. Senator Simoneer, yes. Senator Penske? Yes. Senator Penske, yes. 5-6.
Motion died. Okay. USM, anybody want to speak to USM? Any motion on USM?
That we exempt USM because they're not on the state system, and given the issues that they raised about the protection, the proprietary protection of the research.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think we've discussed this. Let's go to roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Yes. Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester?
While I love the university, I am voting no because they are not 100% on their own. They do have some overlap with Network Maryland, and I think that we could learn a lot from working together on this one. So my vote is no.
Senator Ellis? No. Senator Ellis, no. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator, oops. Hold on. Bear with me. Senator Patterson? No. Senator Patterson, no. Senator Simoneer? Yes. Senator Simoneer, yes. And Senator Penske? Yes. Senator Penske, yes.
7-4, amendments adopted. Okay. Anybody want to do anything with the public safety concern, or do we think that can be worked out, or does anybody want to move anything on the public safety?
Could we just ask legal counsel to chat with DPSCS and see whether there is some tweak that can reassure them about the safety and the confidentiality of federal databases?
Okay, there's no amendment before us.
Right.
We won't get to the final vote today. If that can take place, so be it. So,
MDOT, did you leave them out on purpose?
no, MDOT did not ask to be pulled out of the whole bill. Deal with the other section in a moment, okay? Look, I'm not going to wait for people to, create problems. Now we should go to page 20 of the bill, page 44 and 45 of the packet. This section, as I read it, and someone should correct me, is about purchasing, leasing, or rental of information technology. The groups in small print already are exempted, and the House has added 3, 4, 6 other groups to that list. And I don't know if anybody else wants to be added, like public safety or MS, pension, public safety, or PSC. I don't want to ask for trouble. But I think it's very important that we also give our imprimatur to the amendments from the House, and we either agree with them or we don't, because we're going to be sending back a bill. So we're on page 45 of the packet. The floor is open for conversation. Senator Hester.
So I did have a few conversations with this weekend. I'm still not clear whether the House meant to exclude them from procurement or whether they meant to exclude them from the entire bill. I understand the major concern was that there could be separation of powers issues with the legislative branch of state government and the judicial branch of state government. And that is why in my amendments, I offered that they self-certify, that they would each certify against a national standard perhaps to their highest part of their government, the presiding officers or the chief judge, that they are meeting a minimum kind of security standard. Any of the other agencies that I think are, not part, that are part of the executive branch, I don't see why they would be added to this part of the bill if they're currently doing their procurement through Do It, and our intention was never to change the procurement, the way the procurement was handled.
Senator, in terms of the legislature and the judiciary, what about other aspects of the bill, the third-party audit? I mean, there are other parts of the bill. I don't know how that fits in.
I think we want them to have, the annual assessments and the certification. It's just who you report that information to. My compromise was to have them report it up instead of report it to Do It. So at least somebody is checking. I mean, I do not know if the legislature is meeting minimum security standards. There's no way for me to find that out.
And you think they should, and where's your amendment? Is it on another page?
I'd have to ask Alexis for that.
So the certification to minimum standards that would have applied to the legislative and the judiciary is stricken under your amendments, as I recall them, Senator. I'm trying to find the page. So it's on page 61 of the reprint, page 36 of the bill. So this is just certifying it to Do It. The amendments that Senator Hester proffered deal with external certification in a different way. But in terms of legislature and judiciary, certifying to Do It, that they meet those standards, that since has been removed. And now the certification is outside of Do It's purview by a third party.
Okay. So Senator Hester's amendment on page 61 has a separate avenue or pathway for these two, which I assume, because it's explicit, supersedes sections 4 and 5. Or not? We adopted uncodified 5 that said they had to be approved by minimum standards by Do It. And then if not, certain things happen. As I read what's on 61, this is a little bit of a different pathway. Is that correct?
Section 5 would only apply to executive agencies, executive branch agencies.
Well, that's not quite true,
Okay, that was my intent.
because we just included pension and retirement, which is not an executive agency.
It is part of the executive branch, even if it's independent. It's still part of the executive branch. There's only 3 branches.
Yeah. Are the quasi-independent agencies still,
That's my understanding. That the independent agencies are also a part of the executive branch bureaucracy. So naming them, I think it made the most sense to make sure that they aren't left out of that language. But even though they aren't, yeah, they're independent for sure.
Any objection to, I know we're doing this piecemeal, but is there any objection to the amendments on page 36 that specifies for the broader certification and bill, not for purchasing solely, the legislature and the judiciary have a semi-independent path?
The amendment sponsor, two questions. One, the relevant cybersecurity standards recommended by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is that what do it? Is that their standards that they hold the executive branch to?
My understanding is basically.
This is State Chief Information Security Officer Chip Stewart, Department of Information Technology. So I believe the question is whether NIST or ISO represents a specific standard that DO-IT approves, and the answer is NIST and ISO are certification organizations. They release a number of standards. I believe that the intent here is that they meet one of either NIST or ISO standards regarding information security, which seems appropriate.
Okay, I'm just trying to compare apples to apples. So we're going to hold the executive side to one set of standards. Will this language hold the other branches to basically the same standard?
It would hold them to a similar reasonable standard, I believe.
Okay. And then the second question, I think the certification in the executive branch goes to DO-IT, is that correct? And then here you have it, not you personally, but the amendment has it going to the Senate President and the Speaker or the Chief Judge. Would it not be more appropriate to go to like OIS or whatever the IT is, opposed to, like, for the executive branch, it would be going to the governor in this scenario? Just wondering why we're, on the executive side, we're sending it to the IT people, and in these, we're sending it to the presiding officers opposed to the IT in that legislative or judicial branch.
I think that's a very good point. And I think I would consider that a friendly amendment.
I know what it is in legislative service, or it's OIS. I don't know what it is in the judicial.
The only issue, though, sorry, I'm just brainstorming, is that's who would be doing the standards themselves. So like OIS, I think, would be having to go through this, and they'd be like self-certifying. Because it's not like DO-IT certifying to itself, it's like all these agencies certifying to DO-IT. I don't know how DO-IT would do itself.
But in fairness, I don't think our future Senate presidents are going to know what this technicality is.
Yeah,
when
no,
they
I
get
think
it.
I think it's a good question.
And they're probably going to run it back right to OIS or somebody who understands it.
Maybe it could go to the auditors. OLA.
We're looking for solutions here, folks. Let's, well, the question came up, OIS or OLA?
That OLA would be a reasonable organization to handle that information. I think it's in line with their mission.
I think, Mr. Chair, I have a lot of faith and confidence in the folks at OLA. I wonder if that's an enormous burden and whether they've got the staff as well as the expertise.
There's money around.
And I wonder if Senator Lamb has thoughts on that, as the chair.
I think the governor has lots of zeros in the budget after a one or a two in hundreds of millions of dollars, I think. But Senator Lamb.
Although with those zeros, it's not necessarily allocated to OLA and the legislative side, unless it's actually.
We have to put language
right.
in, we can help spend that money.
Right. I mean, I know Mr. Hook has been hesitant to be pulled into a lot of these things. I would prefer to check with him to see if he feels that they have the expertise to be able to do that, but assuming they're comfortable with it, I think that's fine. Would be hesitant to speak for them, though, on that, yeah.
Okay, let's put a bookmark in that, Madam Counsel. So we may want to amend bottom of 61, 2, Roman numeral 2, 1. Okay, let's go back to page 20 of the bill, 45 of the packet. We've got about 15 or 18 more minutes before we move on to other business. Are people comfortable with what the House sent back to us? Any other discussion on what has been added? You're learning.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of these. I understand judicial, legislative, and then you have the constitutional offices. Why the State Board of Elections? If anybody knows that.
So I didn't receive a letter from them. As the chair mentioned, this was in deliberations in the House, but the House was pretty responsive to the folks that reached out to them. So I'm not sure their rationale for doing it in procurement under State Board of Elections. I'm not sure what this is in fact changing and how procurement is carved out for SBE. But I don't have a magic why they did it. I just think it's, I just think it's, you know, they were the entities that directly reached out.
I believe, good.
I am still waiting to hear back, but, I mean, I do not think that I'm not sure they meant to amend them out of procurement. This is, I mean, we've been trying to push procurement back to the way it was before. So I would proffer that we strike out lines, numbers 8 through 13, and we not exempt them from procurement, but if there's an exemption, that we do that somewhere else, like later in the bill where we exempted out the certification for the legislation and the judicial. But if one of these agencies is like, we talk about 3 branches of government, I would say anything on the executive branch side should not be exempt.
DGS, are you still here? How do you handle it now with State Board of Elections? And how will this change or not change?
Good afternoon, Mike Hafley, Department of General Services. I'm a little bit confused by this language, just to be honest with you. This is in due its enabling authority. This language is in due its enabling authority. They currently do not have primary procurement authority. So I'm confused who's in and who's out of procurement when they don't have authority to procure.
Wasn't the question about the State Board of Elections?
Right.
And my understanding, and maybe if there's a representative from MACO wants to clarify, but their understanding is that they are out of this section now, and there may be some questions of whether they thought they were out of the entire bill, but it sounds like this committee, and maybe Senator Hester knows, if we've heard directly from the Board of Elections, that's why I thought with MACO being here, I didn't know if they knew if the Board of Elections had weighed in to get on this original list that was sent over to us, question mark.
To tons of agencies on this issue, as you can imagine. The State Board of Elections, we talked, prior to the hearing in the House. They were very concerned about their staff being taken away and their IT systems being taken away. They were concerned about having another agency kind of meddle in their affairs. When I asked if they would be comfortable certifying that they met minimum do-it standards, they said that would be fine with them.
So where they are now is they're on the exemption for procurement right now.
Which is why I think there's a lot of confusion on this part of the side of the bill. Do-it's got their hands up.
Patrick Mulford, Department of Information Technology. The section that we're referring to is actually basically just deals with who has to comply with the MITDP fund and process, Major Information Technology Fund process. So really exempting the Office of Attorney General, Comptroller, State Treasurer, Legislative Branch, and Judicial Branch would make sense because we don't deal with them in the MITDP process anyway. But State Board of Elections being exempt from this would be a huge mistake. This doesn't actually deal with procurement per se. It deals with DeWitt's oversight before it gets to the procurement process. So this process gives DeWitt really the bird's eye view of the big information technology projects throughout the state. And the secretary has to, basically, they go through a process. The secretary has to say whether a project can go forth or not. I don't believe that the comptroller's projects go through that currently, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Ask is, in my, world of upgrades to legacy systems, FEMA is like top of the list. Like, we really have to improve that so that our procurement practices and taxes work better. And so if we're going to invest a lot of money, wouldn't that upgrade to the comptroller's office go through MITDP?
Yeah, I don't think any of these are necessarily good additions to this list. I'll just say that because with the legislative branch and the judicial branch, I don't believe we run their major information technology projects anyway. Okay. So
go ahead.
We do oversee the comptroller and the treasurer's MITDPs.
So then you would take out State Board of Elections, AG, Comptroller, and State Treasurer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Amend the House amendments and remove them from the list. Is there a motion to take such an action? Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. Okay, so the motion is to remove 8 through 11. Discussion? Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for clarity, when we take them off this list, we'll be putting them back in under this bill. Procurement.
What are those acronyms?
Information Technology Project, Development Project.
Okay.
It's a review and approval of cybersecurity projects by those agencies. Is that fair?
Yes, it's current law, current practice.
So when we take them off this list, we're including them in the standard process. Go back to normal.
It's continuing them in the current practice.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I've been going back and forth and trying to wait for something substantive from the Board of Elections. So Jared Demarinis finally gave me something that I can read publicly that's useful. Love him, but yeah. Yes, we want out was not so useful. So maintain independence from the governor's office is the one-word phrase. Just saying, this is what I got. So presumably, with their major technology, with their major projects, it all goes to the Board of Public Works.
I'm sorry, who was this from?
Jared Demarinis, Department, the Board of Elections. So I read this phrase again, maintain independence from the governor's office. My understanding was that SBE has not been very compliant with DeWitt and that they're supposed to play nicely, but that they kind of don't. Hold on, Senator Croza, can we just, sorry, Mr. Stewart, am I close on that? Are they even playing
Well,
nicely
no,
now
that's
in the
not-
sandbox?
no, the question is, what is the current practice?
Yeah, that's,
Well, I don't
You
want
said
to,
it,
it's
I said-
subjective, I don't,
okay, fine.
The current practice is that the Department of Information Technology reviews the major IT development projects for State Board of Elections as part of that initiative. That's it.
And, and the procurements come under the control of Department of General Services and go to the Board of Public Works.
so if they are removed, the current practice is in reviewing systems and purchasing, it would remain as it is? Or do I have that wrong? I just want the facts to be clear.
So if line number 8 is stricken from the bill as written, the practice would remain the same.
Yes, same here.
Just to follow up to what you just said, you said specifically the State Board of Elections. Any oversight or role with our 24 local boards of elections? I'm seeing no from Mr. Mulford.
I would believe what Patrick says.
Okay, so he doesn't say, but he says this. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the motion is to remove 8, 9, 10, and 11 on page 45. Roll call.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis?
Yes.
Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza?
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson?
Yes.
Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire?
Yes.
Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Penske?
Yes.
Senator Penske, yes. 11-0.
Okay. We covered the larger buckets in 1346. I want to offer one more in 1202 because it's parallel our conversation. We're going to have to come back and walk through the other small amendments that we haven't walked through and just either accept them or reject them. We'll have to do that tomorrow or Wednesday because we're going to have to send it back to the House. But I'd like people to go to page 1202. I'm sorry, page 20. Same packet, same packet. Yes. Hold on. On page 23, I apologize. Line 6 through 11. I would like to add language, if they do not meet minimum security standards, and adopt the same language that we adopted in the first bill, which would be on page 67. I'm not reading, oh,
The language is in the standalone.
oh. Okay, that's fine. So essentially, if a local agency school system or county doesn't meet the minimum standards, we shouldn't say, oh, well, or just throw them off the network, because if a Baltimore City or a Baltimore County Public Schools are hacked, it's still going to fall on the state. So I think DeWitt should be involved there as well. So I just want a parallelism here. I haven't floated this by Mako, but I'm glad you're here. But I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If whether it's an agency or a county or a local school system, we want to have some remediation. So I would move this for 1202. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I think on A1, states minimum cybersecurity standards established by the Department of Information. I assume, rather than security, I assume you mean technology, so it's referencing DeWitt. That's right the way it is, or that's right?
It's right that it should say Department of Information Technology.
Okay, so, yeah, friendly amendment.
That's fine. And 1202, while it doesn't include municipalities, I thought it does include school systems. I mean, so I would like this to be any local units that we are defined in 1202.
So should that include municipalities, or to include municipalities, or?
I'm less concerned about them. It's the counties, the school systems, and I don't know how we're handling local health departments. I don't know if that's,
They're covered as well in 1202.
hold it, I'm not, hold off on that. Are they in 1202 or do they fall under health department?
No,
Are
they fall under 1202. Local
Okay.
health departments are in 1202.
Put them in too.
Okay.
And what about local boards of elections?
Local boards of elections are not included
want to bring
in 1202.
No, I want to do the local units as they're defined in 1202. So A1, where it says each political subdivision, it'll use the same definition in 1202 as they talk about local units, which are county governments, boards of education, health department. Is there a second? Discussion. Senator Carosa, followed by Senator Kagan up here. Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things. Senator Carosa.
Standalone, so 1A, when you said on or before June 30th, 2023, each political subdivision, and that now includes, did we say that includes boards of education?
Right, all the others that are covered in 1202.
Which are?
Boards of
So-
education, health departments, counties, and city, the 24 subdivisions.
So the counties, education, and health
Yes.
department, okay. Then what we're saying that if you drop down to 2B, if an agency has not remediated any fundings pertaining to state cybersecurity standards, and you go forward by this date, the Office of Security Management, so that's the overall state,
Right.
czar, shall assume responsibility for a political subdivision's cybersecurity through a shared service agreement. So,
That we just did for the agency, executive agencies. So in other words, if executive agencies have shortfalls or shortcomings, and they haven't corrected them, DeWitt can step in. And I'm saying, while it's not exactly parallel, because we're not asking for the exact same thing, I'm saying if they don't meet minimum standards, and there's no remediation, DeWitt can step in exactly like they do with the agencies.
I understand, and I guess my question would be, and maybe Mako can respond to this, if there is a disagreement on whether they are not in compliance or not, what happens then?
They have to certify, but DeWitt reviews that certification to see whether it's actual and real or it's bogus.
So there would be an appeals process for a county that may believe that they are in compliance?
Do we have an appeal process for DNR if they are
I don't
rejected?
know, I just
Yeah,
didn't know with. since
Either
they're
we're
separate-
trusting DeWitt or we're not trusting DeWitt. I don't think I was trying to build a parallel structure for the locals that could be in jeopardy of hacking, and I've tried to replicate what's the process for state agencies.
I wonder if, Mr. Stewart, I don't know whom the right person is to ask, but you indicated that the local boards of elections are not covered, and now in the local section, the local boards of elections are not covered. I'm wondering how it is that we are going to make sure that voters have every reason to continue to believe that our 24 local boards of elections are protected from cyber attacks.
Well, I'd like to, we have a broader question that we're debating. I'd like to hold that issue for a moment. The question is, conceptually, should there be some accountability and remediation for the locals? We can deal with the secondary issue of who's on that list in a minute. Senator Hester.
So speaking, conceptually, I think, like I said before, if they're on Network Maryland, that's one thing. I don't think all the counties are on Network Maryland. So you might want to divide, you might want to think about if this applies to those that aren't on the network, because they're not causing us the same, heartburn that the other ones are. I would love to hear from Mako. I know they're here. But a concern that I do have, which I've talked to the governor's office about, is how much DO-IT can take on at one point in time. And so, do they physically have the capacity to do the certification of all the agencies and then 24 counties times 3 or 4 units of local government immediately? And so you might want to have, it just might delay this part, which I see as a big workload for DO-IT, at least a year. I see them nodding back there. But I mean, I do think it'd be interesting to hear from DO-IT and from Mako.
Of what we're going to hear. Sure, Mako, tell us, talk to us about accountability for cybersecurity, and if you get hacked, who you're going to come to. I think that's what Senator Hester asked a few minutes ago. And tell us, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, what happened there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Canale here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties. So I do agree there should be accountability. I think we have questions over mechanics of how this would work and what you mean when DO-IT just takes over a non-state system and goes into a local government and says we're going to take over this part of the system or this function. I just, it's hard to understand how that would all work. And I don't know if DO-IT has an idea of how that would work, but, and I also do agree with Senator Hester that I think it's important to distinguish Network Maryland versus not on Network Maryland. I can get a list for you, I can follow up, but I know that some are not, and then you have some boards of, local boards of health who are not, or health departments, like Howard County Health Department is not on Network Maryland.
Baltimore County Public Schools, were they on the network, and did they solve it themselves, or did they go to DO-IT?
So I can't speak for the school system. I'm not sure.
How about Baltimore City when they were hacked?
I believe that they are.
They are what?
They're on the network.
Okay. So did they go to DO-IT?
I'd have to ask.
Are they part of Mako?
They are.
And you don't know what they did?
I don't know exactly who they went to or what they
Okay.
did, but I believe they did go to DO-IT.
Okay.
Chip Stewart, State Chief Information Security Officer. So Baltimore County Public Schools came through the Maryland Department of Emergency Management to get some level of support from DO-IT and the state, so we did provide support for them. Baltimore City as well did receive support from the Department of IT.
While DO-IT's up here, could you just speak to the capacity issue? Like, how quickly could you guys ramp? No.
Under the bill, you've got to certify those 24 jurisdictions. They submit it to you. I assume you spend a few minutes on it. It's not like you just accept it as gospel, right?
That's correct.
And if it's not meeting the standards, can you not certify? Can you not accept their certification?
I think we could not accept their certification or describe what they should do to remediate. I would be concerned about the capacity of Do It right now to fully consume the services and what effectively is being called takeover IT for a county. So I think that would be a consideration and a concern.
But you have enough for an agency like the Department of Health, but not for a county?
Correct. I mean, some of the counties are massive in terms of scale. You look at the Baltimore County Public Schools, you're talking about effectively, I think it was over 100,000 individuals in the system.
And is the $100 million from the governor in this budget going to help?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Thank you all. Okay, the motion before you, and there was one suggestion of delayed implementation, was to put the similar language under 1202. I would consider a friendly amendment if we want a delayed date of that. A year, that this uncodified section takes effect October 1, 2023. I'm open. I'm hearing silence.
Amendment right now.
Well, if it makes it more palatable, we can make June 30th, December. We can make it October, we can make it December, I don't care.
Again, new administration, new vote.
Okay, then a friendly amendment on the freestanding is on or before December 1, 2023. Any objection to that amendment?
That's on the first line?
Correct. And if you want to make the second date, December 1, 2024, if that reduces the heartburn, I'm fine with that as well. I'm sure they would love it. Okay, so the freestanding, December 1, 2023 in A1, and December 2024 in 2B. Okay, on the amendment for 1202, roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Yes. Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? Yes. Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Penske? Yes. Senator Penske, yes.
Okay, we're going to stop right here on cyber. I guess we'll be taking up after hearings tomorrow, but we have about 45 minutes or 40 minutes to knock out some other bills. Very quickly, Senator Hester, if it's on cyber.
I'd like to introduce a guest. Is that okay? Thank you so much. I'm delighted to have a group from Howard County, the Chinese American Parent Association of Howard County. They were scheduled to come down here and observe session before they knew we had this cybersecurity work session. But if you guys just want to stand up and wave, we're really glad that you're here to observe the legislative process.
Okay, we're going to go on to April coming in? Yeah. Okay. Voting list. Let's go to the consents first.
That's not, yours don't have the number on
These two.
That's it. That's the consent. I think it's 38, right? That's April, so, yeah. That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay, concurrence, fine.
705, Education, Physical Restraint and Seclusion, Limitations, Reporting and Training. The House amendments conform the bill to HB 1255 as passed by the Senate. I recommend you concur.
Any objection? Then we move. Yeah, she was in the back. Then we will concur on the restraint legislation. Any others? Stacy?
I want to talk to you about it first.
Okay. Then let's go to 38.
There we go. All right, so list number 38, this is a consent calendar. All of the bills on this list are identical cross files of Senate bills that passed both this committee and the floor unanimously. The only one where you won't see a cross file is House Bill 191, but it is identical to Senate Bill 206, which was the Department of Agriculture's departmental bill on the same subject.
It's been moved, seconded. Anybody wish to be recorded on any of these bills in the negative? I can pull it. Any pulled? Okay. Then consent, voting list number 38 is adopted as a consent calendar. Are there any other consents?
No.
Okay, are the alcohol bills, are they easy? Can we go back to them? Sure. Let's go to calendar 45.
Yeah, there's 45 and 46. So for Friday.
45 are or not identical?
45 are all cross files, but they're not identical to the Senate bills. 46 is bills that were not cross-filed that we heard last Friday.
So do we need to walk through the list 45?
45 we definitely need to walk through.
Let's do it.
I do. House Bill 465, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Resort Complex License. This bill establishes a resort complex license in Harford County. The Harford County Board of License Commissioners may issue one resort complex license to the person owning, leasing, or operating a resort complex. The license authorizes the license holder to sell beer, wine, and liquor from specified locations. They may serve alcoholic beverages at specified times, depending on a location. The resort complex license is exempt from any quota or restriction on off-sale license issued for the election district in which the resort complex is located. The one difference between the House and Senate bill is that a resort complex for which the license is issued is subject to alcohol awareness training requirements as specified in the bill. We have a local letter on this bill.
Any objection? Everyone will be recorded in the favorable for 465 next.
House Bill 493, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Service Under Stadium License. If you recall, this emergency bill repeals the requirement that an individual may serve beer, wine, and liquor under a Harford County Stadium beer, wine, and liquor license. Only in a plastic, styrofoam, or a paper container is specified. The House bill is quite different in that it authorizes an individual to serve beer, wine, and liquor in a glass container only in an area in the stadium designated by the license holder to hold a special event. The bill also exempts areas in the stadium designated by the license holder to hold a special event from a requirement that the individual may dispense wine and liquor during a baseball game only from a stationary structure that is equipped with a driver's license scanner. We have a local letter on this as well.
Any objection?
Would the senator from Harford County allow an amendment to take away styrofoam cups? Okay, then.
Yeah, I thought they're illegal in the state.
No, I thought in the language, deleted. I thought they delete only
Yeah.
a classic.
Right.
It's already
It
deleted.
repeals the requirement that an individual, yes, sorry.
I wasn't listening.
Okay, any objection to adopting 493? Seeing none, pass to the floor. Next, Harford County.
So this bill, we don't have a local letter on it, and we didn't move the Senate bill. It got snuck onto the list by accident, sorry.
Okay, a long haul. A long haul.
House Bill 671, Somerset County, alcoholic beverages, abolishment of liquor control board and dispensary system. This bill repeals the Somerset County Liquor Board and establishes a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. This is identical to the cross-file with the exception of a technical amendment that we should adopt to conform it in the purpose paragraph, where the purpose paragraph in this bill mentions Somerset County. The identical or non-identical Senate cross-file does not reference Somerset in the function paragraph.
So are they
paragraph,
adding it
sorry.
to the Senate bill? in
They're
the other
conforming
chamber?
it to the bill as we have it before us. So this bill does say Somerset County.
So it's appropriate,
So-
it's accurate.
Let me double check. Right, so this House bill, right.
Okay.
The House bill is fine, actually,
Okay,
yeah.
any objection? Seeing none? Yes.
So this bill abolishes the liquor board in the
Yeah,
county?
Right.
What takes its place? And does anything take its place? or-
To go back and double check, it's been a while.
There's only, I believe, 3 remaining counties that have these liquor boards in place. So Somerset County is moving in line with other counties as far as abolishing its liquor board. It basically allows the sale of liquor by private entities the way other counties have it.
So,
The focus is on removing the dispensary system. They have like, what do you call it?
County liquor stores.
County liquor stores, like a state liquor store. They're still going to have a liquor board, aren't you?
Right, so, I'm sorry, there are 2 boards. The one would be eliminated that actually carries out the dispensary system that's run by the county. The county is getting out of the dispensary system.
okay, so the county will still have a liquor control board, well, board of license.
Liquor commissioners, exactly.
A board of license
Board of
commissioners.
license, so this bill doesn't affect that.
It does not.
Okay, great, thank you for
Thank
that
you.
clarification.
But can I clarify, are we correcting the House bill, the Senate bill, or are we all straight?
So it just couldn't be placed on the consent calendar because it's not identical. So actually with this one, the Senate is going, or actually the House is going to conform their version of our Senate bill to this one.
So this
we're
is fine.
with changes.
Okay,
Light version, they have to add a couple words on our
Okay.
bill.
thank you.
Any objection? Seeing none, bill is passed. Next.
Okay, House Bill 854, Delegate Wilkins, alcoholic beverages, Maryland alcohol manufacturing and promotion. This bill is the cross-file of Senate Bill 698. It establishes the Advisory Commission on Maryland Alcohol Manufacturing and the Maryland Alcohol Manufacturing Promotion Fund in the Department of Commerce. Requires the comptroller to distribute alcohol tax revenues from alcohol produced by breweries, distilleries, and wineries in Maryland to the fund. The bill, I've included an amendment in your packet being offered by the bill sponsor. It's on page 2 of the voting packet. The bill just conforms the House bill to the Senate cross-file. Specifically, it adds, if you recall, the Senate added the Special Secretary of the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs to the Advisory Commission, and also required the Advisory Commission to reflect the diversity of the state. And finally, the Senate had adopted an amendment to limit nonprofits eligible for grants to 501c3s and C6s. The only thing that this amendment does that was not in the Senate amendments is it actually corrects a technical error when we added that additional person, messed up a cross-reference, so the House is going to fix the Senate bill. but otherwise, it's a conforming amendment.
Okay, anybody object to adopting the conforming amendment and the bill as amended? Seeing none, 854, 854? Yes, 854 is approved and sent to the floor. Next.
House Bill 1115 is the subject of some disagreement between the two delegations, so we will be holding this bill.
House Bill 1180, Wicomico County Alcoholic Beverages Dinner Theater License. This is the cross-file to Senate Bill 645, which established a Class B, BF banquet facility beer, wine, and liquor license within Wicomico County. This bill, House Bill 1180, is almost identical to Senate Bill 646, with the exception of a technical amendment. When the amendments were sent in through Wicomico County, they were sent to two different drafters who added language on restrictions of enforcement of the license, and it was worded differently. So I've gotten word from House Counsel that they will amend the Senate version to match with House Bill 1180. That's the only reason it did not go on a consent calendar. So we do not have to do anything because they will conform it to this version.
Any objection to adopting 1180? Saying not, that'll be sent to the floor affirmatively. 1234.
Also another hold.
All right, so all of the bills on this list are alcohol bills that we heard last Friday. House Bill 232, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Alcoholic Beverages, Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor Clubhouse Lodge License. This bill authorizes the issuance of a Class 4 limited winery and Class 7 microbrewery alcoholic beverage manufacturer's licenses to holders of a Class B BWL clubhouse/lodge license in Montgomery County as specified. Bill also makes technical corrections so that obsolete references to the previous authority of the comptroller are updated to reference the authority of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission.
Anybody have any objection? Seeing none, 232 will move the floor with a favorable report. Next.
House Bill 233, Montgomery County Alcoholic Beverages, Class 7 microbrewery license and license in the town of Kensington. This bill authorizes the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to issue a Class 7 microbrewery on and off sale license to the holder of a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license in Montgomery County that is issued for the sale of beer, wine, and liquor for on-premises consumption at the place described in the license. The bill increases from 8 to 20 the number of Class AK off-sale beer and wine licenses and aggregate number of specified licenses that the Montgomery County Board of License Commissioners may issue in the town of Kensington.
Okay, any objection? That will be moved to the floor. Next.
House Bill 241, Montgomery County, Damascus, Alcoholic Beverages, Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor License Referendum. This bill authorizes the Montgomery County Board of License Commissioners to issue a Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor License in Damascus, 12th Election District. The passage of the bill is contingent on the approval of the voters of Damascus in the November 2022 general election.
Could we add cannabis to this?
If you like. Seeing none, it's a little smoky. Any objection? 241, done. Next.
House Bill 242, Montgomery County Alcoholic Beverages Consumption-Only Marketplace Licenses. This bill authorizes the Montgomery County Board of License Commissioners to issue a consumption-only marketplace license to the management company of a commercial shopping center if the shopping center meets specified criteria. The bill also alters the distance that the license holder is authorized to allow the consumption of beer, wine, and liquor in a designated outdoor area to include an area with 1,000 feet, within 1,000 feet of the designated outdoor area.
Seeing no lights on or any objections, no objections, 242 will go to the Senate floor.
House Bill 357, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages, Sunday Off-Sale Permits. This bill repeals the limitation on the number of Sunday off-sale permits that the Prince George's County Board of License Commissioners may issue to the holder of any Class A license or the holder of any Class B license with an off-sale privilege.
Senator, maybe people watching us will be shocked. All right. Computer screen, but, no, I think, Senator, I think you're right. I think it removes the cap on 105, I believe. Yes. Page 3, yeah. It's got a letter from the county delegation. Anybody object to having an open Sunday sales in Prince George's County? Blue law is what happened to you. 357 passes to the floor. Next.
House Bill 359, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages, Transfer of Class A Beer, Wine, and Liquor License. This bill authorizes the Prince George's County Board of License Commissioners to approve the transfer of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license to a premises located in a specified area if there is no Class A beer, wine, and liquor license operating within 1 mile of the premises.
Yes, there are amendments.
They weren't given to me.
We took out 21, 22, 24, and 47, I believe, but I don't know where they are. No. It's not in the file.
Can we hold another couple? I have it.
We'll hold it till we get the formal, it's a shame, but it is what it is. Next, 474.
House Bill 474, St. Mary's County, Leonard Town Alcoholic Beverages Licenses, Place of Worship Distance Restriction. This bill allows any alcoholic beverages licenses, or any alcoholic beverages license to be issued for premises in Leonard Town that are within 300 feet of a place of worship or a public or non-public pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, elementary, or secondary school. Bill repeals an existing limitation that allowed only a Class B on-sale beer, wine, and liquor license to be issued in Leonardtown within that distance.
Any objections to this St. Mary's County beverage worship? Okay. So it'll be a 10-1 vote favorable on 474. 667.
667, there's a more delegation disagreement I've been asked to hold.
Okay, next page, you've got a couple more. 886.
House Bill. House Bill 886, Calvert County Board of License Commissioners Compensation. This bill increases the compensation of the Calvert County Board of License Commissioners such that the board chair must receive $5,000 annually for expenses incurred while performing the duties of office, an $800 increase. And each regular board member must receive $4,350 annually for expenses incurred while performing the duties of office. It's a $750 increase.
Any objection on 886 to adopting the local alcohol bill? Seeing none, that'll go to the floor unanimously. And finally, 1253.
Okay. House Bill 1253, Alcohol and Tobacco Commission clarifications. This is a statewide bill. The bill clarifies the authority of the Executive Director of the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to enter into a memoranda of understanding and cooperative arrangements with federal, state, and local government units to address operational matters and efficiencies in regulating alcohol and tobacco as specified. Bill also clarifies and corrects a reference to the applicability of requirements for alcoholic awareness programs and changes made by Chapter 12 of 2019, which established the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission.
Any objection to this local bill?
Not local.
Statewide.
Statewide bill, sorry.
What did you say?
I was just wondering if we had a crossfile. Seems statewide bill like that.
All right, this, Kelly came in, Jeff Kelly came in last week. Right. Any objection? Seeing none, the bill is adopted. Okay, let's go to list number 43. We're going to hold 18. List 43. Uh, 22. HB 22.
House Bill 22, Animal Welfare, Declawing Cats, Prohibited Acts. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 67. However, it's not on a consent calendar just because the vote in EHE was not unanimous. This is the bill that prohibits a person from performing a declawing procedure on a cat unless the person is a veterinary practitioner.
Would people like to replicate the vote on the Senate version on this? We don't have to debate it again. Okay, Memoria, we'll just do the same vote.
For the Senate version.
For the SB 67 will be on HB 22. Next. That passes. Next.
House Bill 24, Cybersecurity Scholarship Program Alterations. If you recall, Senate Bill 4 is the cross-file to this bill. It stripped the LARP provisions out, and essentially the request is favorable as amendment to conform House Bill 24 to SB 4 as amended by the Senate. And what this committee did was they added a provision about, oh goodness, the work hours for part-time students conforming to the length of time they hold the scholarship of full-time students. So we would need to add an amendment to conform it to SB 4.
Any objection to conforming it to the Senate bill, which we passed about 2.5 weeks ago? Yes, thank you. Seeing none, the bill passes in an amended fashion to conform it. HB 22. Next.
55 is in alignment with Senate Bill 1011, which is at the bottom of voting list 43. They are currently in House Bill 55's amended state identical. So House Bill 55, Health Occupations, Nurse Anesthetist Drug Authority. This bill authorizes a nurse anesthetist to prescribe, order, and administer controlled and non-controlled drugs that are in connection with the delivery of anesthesia, that are in accordance with individuals who have already established a patient record with the nurse anesthetist, and they can only prescribe up to a 10-day supply of the drugs.
I think you're probably going where I am. Wasn't there a Senate version that was withdrawn?
Right.
Oh, okay. So then it got
Reintroduced.
refiled? Okay. Okay. Senator.
Like it. And I want to remind the committee that the good Dr. Senator had many concerns about the expansion of nursing, advanced nurses, and the drug authority, because, so counsel, you mentioned that their authority is restricted to drugs having to do with anesthesia.
Right, it has to be.
It is my understanding that the authority expands to the full scope of pharmacy.
Oh, well,
And I'm getting a nod, yes.
well, the ordering, prescribing, and administering has to be in connection with the delivery of anesthesia. But they have authorized prescribing authority, just like prescribers do, but it's limited in the supply, and it is limited in the scope as well of how it can be administered. It has to be in accordance with administering anesthesia.
I think it says only in connection with the delivery of anesthesia services. Senator? Lamore, could you?
Right, so it's in connection with delivery of anesthesia services. I think what Senator Riley might have been saying is that there's no restriction on the type of medications as long as it's in relation to delivery of those anesthesia services. So there are different classes of anesthetics that you can use, some of them stronger than others. A bunch of them are opioids or narcotics, for example. Some of them are not. It really depends on the procedure that you're doing. But there are no restrictions on the type of medications that this person will be able to prescribe.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? No. Senator Lamb, no. Senator Hester? Senator Ellis?
Yes.
Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza?
No.
Senator Carozza, no. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley?
No.
Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson?
Yes.
Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? Senator Simonaire, no. Senator Hester? I thought he gets the last vote. Sorry.
We didn't, yeah.
We never voted on, it. Okay.
Senator Hester, yes. And Senator Penske? Senator Penske, yes. 6-5.
Procedurally, since I've been here, we've never allowed passes when we vote. So just pass, and then come back to them again. Just a point of order.
On that issue? Well, we haven't set a policy. It hasn't been used very much. If the committee wants to set a policy, I'm open on the question.
Just keep going round.
No, I will not allow that. But I think it's happened 2 or 3 times on about 250 votes. But if you want to suggest a policy, I don't feel I have any specific. I'm agnostic. So whatever you think's right. If it's abused.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember 2 votes this session doing. I don't remember ever. So I would suggest we don't pass and just vote when it's time to vote. Or if you want to pass and excuse yourself, that's fine. But I don't think we should be voting and then coming back after you see how everybody else votes.
Okay, any objection to us not allowing passing from henceforth? Prospectively. Okay, let's do a vote. Let's do a simple vote. Okay? We'll assume that's the motion, that henceforth, there'll be no passing. I'm sorry? If you're in your chair, you vote.
Or abstain.
Roll call, and there's no passing on this vote. That's a decision of the chair, unilateral.
One clarifying question, I guess. Can we say that you can only pass once on the vote? So you can't just keep going around and around and around? Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Like, during one vote, you have one pass.
Yeah, no, if you vote down his, then we'll talk about variations on a theme.
Can I speak?
Absolutely, we're a small d democratic process here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, had the opportunity to be here 4 years on this committee, and I mean, we've never done passing. I don't think in the last week of our 4-year term, we should totally change the unwritten policy that we've been doing for 4 years. So I'll support the motion.
I'm going to, speaking against the motion, and while I think it's well-intentioned, Certainly, if people are out of the room, or if they abstain, they're allowed to change their vote and go to Lemuria. What I believe, by one pass, and I don't think it should be done terribly often, just from a time-consuming thing. I think it is transparent if it happens this way, when it goes back, as opposed to put me down as red or green. So I kind of like that it's being done live streaming and in the moment. So I'm going to be voting no on
Question on that, can I comment? So why didn't you push for that 3 years ago then? How come just now, the last week before we're done a session, the fourth year of a term, we're going to completely do the opposite of what we've done for the previous 3 years and 80 days?
I have to tell you, and I don't remember when, there were times on this committee there were passing. And now maybe it was pre the 4-year term. Let's not talk history. We're talking about going forward. We're going to have another 50 bills to vote on, and we can decide on new rules next year if we're all here or in the same shape or fashion. So it's a simple policy decision. It was raised, and we just voted up or down. It's that simple. So the motion is no passing if you're in a seat. Yeah, let's keep I want to get through other bills.
So as a policy, we could all just say, well, let's just all pass the first time around, and then we'll see what happens second time, it can be abused. And like I said, I've been here, I think, 11 or so years. I don't recall. I've seen people not vote, but I haven't seen, okay, I'm not going to vote. Let's see what comes around. Well, I don't recall it.
And folks, we're talking prospectively. We're not going to review history. It's a policy question, that's all.
No, I would like to, this just seems, there certainly have been times when people pass. If I'm not ready, I'm still thinking about it, I would like an opportunity. You clearly have to vote, I know what I'm doing, I'm not looking to see what other people are doing. But if we're going around and I'm not quite ready, I don't see why I shouldn't be allowed to just say pass and come back to me. So I'll be voting against that. I think that's, we work well as a committee. We should allow each other the flexibility we need to make good decisions.
Yeah, I would only say, and this probably tips off where I am on it, if people are in a situation of unreadiness, we should hold off the vote and have more debate. Okay, roll call. The motion is going forward, no passing if you're in your seat. You can pass, you just don't get another shot at the apple. It's just a non-vote. Okay, roll call.
Senator Kagan?
No.
Senator Kagan, no. Senator Lamb? No. Senator Lamb, no. Senator Hester? No. Senator Hester, no. Senator Ellis? I'm sorry. Senator Ellis, no. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? Senator Washington, no. Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? No. Senator Patterson, no. Senator Salmonair? Yes. Senator Salmonair, yes. And Senator Penske?
Yes.
Senator Penske, yes. 5-6.
Okay, motion fails. We just leave it like it is, or if you want to pursue, okay.
Very appropriate. So we just voted House Bill 55. Move that we have the same vote on Senate Bill 1011, same bill.
Senate cross-file 1011 will have the same 6-5 vote, so we don't have to discuss it or do a roll call. Okay. 139.
House Bill 139, Correctional Education, Juvenile Services Education Program, and Correction Education Teachers. This bill establishes that, notwithstanding any other provisions of law, certain teachers are in the professional service in the state personnel management system, specifically each teacher in the Juvenile Services Education Program who is employed by the Department of Juvenile Services, and each teacher in an educational and workforce training program in an adult educational institution who is employed by the Maryland Department of Labor. The bill requires the Director of Education and Workforce Skills Training for correctional institutions to set qualification standards for teachers and workforce training skills programs who are employed by MDL that are similar to the standards for teachers providing career and technology education instruction in public high schools. In addition, the bill clarifies that public agency, as it applies to specified provisions of law relating to the education of students with disabilities and the reporting of physical restraint and seclusion incidents by public agencies, includes the Juvenile Services Education Program. Essentially, what happens is, as you recall, this bill last week, is that some teachers in the Juvenile Services Program are special appointments and don't have access to collective bargaining rights, and others don't. And this puts everybody in the same posture, kind of a cleanup bill.
Is there a motion? It's moved. Is there a second? Second. Discussion. Senator Riley.
Much. Council, was there any, there was 33 people who voted against it, primarily Republicans. Was there anything in the file that indicate opposition from organizations or special interest groups?
There was no opposition in the file.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, there was one individual.
Where?
I have. William Love.
Oh.
Comes in on that, yes.
Okay.
He doesn't submit written testimony.
Otherwise, it was favorable. Discussion. Who would like to be recorded in the negative? Sure. Can't pass.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? No. Senator Simonaire, no. And Senator Penske?
Yes.
Senator Penske, yes. 7-4.
167.
House Bill 167, commission to establish a Maryland Women's Veterans Memorial. This bill establishes a commission to establish a Maryland Women's Veterans Memorial as a 2-year commission to make recommendations for the funding, design, construction of a Maryland Women's Veterans Memorial. The bill establishes membership and sunsets the bill on June 30th, 2024.
I had this bill here, I had this joint resolution here in front of us last year, and it didn't move. Don't know why this is moving. If it wasn't worthy last year, not quite sure why it should be worthy this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The joint resolution, we had a presentation, and it didn't move. So now we have a bill, and it's moving. I'm just trying to figure out why. Why 1 year a Republican doesn't get it, and another year somebody else gets it.
Well, I do know this, the House does not move joint resolutions. They all, I think all die in Rules Committee. I can't speak for the chair of the appropriate committee, what his or her thinking was. So I don't have an answer for you.
Senator? Consolation Prize, one of the co-sponsors' names is Riley, spelled correctly and everything.
I'm going to vote for the bill. It was good last year. It's good this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a motion? I'm sorry? Okay.
You could sell it better.
Okay, is there a motion? It's moved, seconded. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Okay, 167 goes to the floor. I want to do one more. Well, that'll take too long. We have two seconds from B&T.
House Bill 89, State Department of Education Child Care Stabilization Grants. This emergency bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education in fiscal 2022 and 2023 to administer child care stabilization grants to provide financial support to child care providers that have faced a financial hardship or suffered an operational burden during the COVID-19 pandemic. The department must award $50 million in grants to child care providers in accordance with the bill in the fiscal 2023 operating budget. In awarding the grants, MSDE must give preference to child care providers based on specified criteria. B&T amended this bill to conform to SB 480, which requires the department to award the money in fiscal 2023 using the same priorities for fiscal year 2022. The bill, B&T voted this favorable with amendments unanimously. HB 89, yes.
The body concur with a budget and tax? It's moved, it's been seconded, discussion, seeing none, we concur.
Okay. House Bill 993, Child Care Capital Support Revolving Loan Fund established. This bill establishes a child care capital support revolving loan fund for the purpose of providing no-interest loans for capital expenses to child care providers who participate in child care scholarship program. The fund is a special non-lapsing fund administered by the Department of Commerce with the support from the Maryland State Department of Education. For fiscal 2023, the governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation to the fund of $15 million. For fiscal '24, the governor must appropriate $10 million, and in fiscal '25, $5 million. SB 19 is amended to conform to HB 993 as amended by B&T. So what this does is that B&T strikes the funding in 2024 and 2025 and just provides for how the funding in the budget's been included in the fiscal 2023 budget of $15 million, but they strike the $10 million appropriation in '24 and the $5 million appropriation in 2025. No. Senate Bill 919. Yes.
You want to follow B&T's lead on the change in appropriations? Please.
I just wonder, and I'm just getting into this now, does it indicate how the distribution of funds should be prioritized?
Yes.
Okay, can you just, I'm going to get into the bill really fast. Can you just talk about that, please? I mean, there's only a first reader version, it appears.
No, House Bill 993.
Oh, I thought you said 919.
Right. So they voted both. They didn't move SB 919 until they received HB 993.
We're going to stop.
Okay.
People need a few minutes, and they might want to bite on some food or an arm or something. Before we go in, we might be in for a while. We'll pick up after bill hearings tomorrow. Folks, I know you all have been approached by House members, why aren't they moving my bill? I have heard from many of them myself multiple times. Even this list, we have 18 more bills, and there's a whole other slew of bills. Just tell them, look, there are some bills that probably aren't going to move, but for a lot of bills, it's capacity. We have the cybersecurity, we have more bills than any other committee. So just, if they're bugging you, just say, I passed on your request, we have a capacity problem, and we're doing our best. We're adjourned until tomorrow. Thank you for your work.